Hello everyone, and welcome to Dead Time Stories. What if the very things that send shivers down your spine could also lull you into the deepest sleep? Imagine drifting off to unsettling whispers, perfectly balanced by the soothing rhythm of falling rain. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and dive into tonight's story. The rain had begun long before Sarah arrived at the house. Sheets of water blurred the windshield, forcing her wipers to drag back and forth in a frantic rhythm as she guided the car down the narrowing country road. Branches arched overhead like skeletal arms, dripping and heavy, blotting out most of the moonlight. She was tired, her entire body aching from the drive. The realtor had promised the place was cozy, full of potential. Though Sarah had learned enough to translate that phrase, it meant old, neglected, and probably damp. But she hadn't cared. After the last few months, the constant noise of the city, the endless cycle of work and silence, she needed distance. She needed quiet. When she saw the mailbox, half rusted, leaning sideways on its posts, the letters O. Mill Road nearly faded to nothing. Her stomach turned with a flutter of nervous anticipation. She slowed the car and pulled into the gravel drive. The house appeared in pieces at first, caught between sheets of rain, a sagging roofline, the narrow mouth of a porch, a window set crooked in the frame. By the time her headlights fully washed over it, the house was waiting for her in silence, dark and motionless except for the steady drip of water from the eaves. Sarah sat in the car a moment longer, gripping the steering wheel. "You wanted this," she whispered to herself, her breath fogging the glass. Peace. Quiet. A fresh start. But the house, with its shuttered eyes and peeling skin, did not look peaceful. It looked like it had been holding its breath. Waiting. Sarah forced herself out of the car, pulling her hood over her hair as rain lashed at her face. The gravel crunched under her boots, each step sounding too loud against the night. She fumbled with the ring of keys the realtor had mailed her, fingers slipping as she hurried up the warped steps of the porch. The front door loomed tall and narrow, its paint blistered and peeling. She found the right key by touch more than sight and slid it into the lock. The mechanism gave way with a reluctant clack, like a throat clearing before a warning. She pushed inside. The air smelled faintly of mildew, but beneath it was another scent, something old, sharp, metallic. The living room opened wide before her, shadows stretching across sagging wallpaper. Her flashlight beam caught an ancient chandelier hanging from the ceiling, its crystals dulled with dust, swaying faintly though there was no draft. "Cozy," she muttered, her voice too loud in the stillness. She flicked on the nearest light switch. To her surprise, a lamp in the corner glowed to life, its yellow light soft but steady. She let out a shaky laugh. "At least the wiring works." Dragging her suitcase inside, Sarah made her way upstairs. The staircase groaned with every step, the handrail sticky with age. She chose the least musty bedroom, stripped the bed, and spread her own blankets over the mattress. The storm deepened outside, wind rattling the shutters. Lying in bed, Sarah listened to the house breathe, pops and sighs of old wood, the distant patter of water dripping in the kitchen sink. Then, somewhere down the hallway, a floorboard shifted. She sat up, heart thudding. "Hello?" she called, her voice small in the dark. Silence. The air seemed to hold her question, pressing it back into her ears. Slowly, she eased down again, pulling the blanket higher. "Old house," she whispered. "That's all." But as her eyes grew heavy, she swore she heard the faintest sound, a soft, dragging shuffle across the floorboards, moving closer. Sarah woke with a start. The storm had quieted to a whisper, but something else had taken its place. A sound from the hallway. Slow, deliberate. A dragging shuffle, as though bare feet were moving across the warped wood. Her chest tightened. She pushed herself up on her elbows, straining to hear. The sound stopped. The silence that followed was worse. It was the kind of silence that pressed against the ears, a silence that listened. Sarah reached for her phone on the nightstand. The screen glowed 2:17 a.m. No missed calls. No service bars. The storm must have knocked the signal out. She swallowed hard. "It's nothing," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "Old house shifting. That's all." But when the doorknob gave the faintest metallic rattle, her breath caught in her throat. Her fingers dug into the blanket. The knob turned slightly, then stopped, as if whoever, or whatever, was on the other side had thought better of it. Sarah's heart thudded so loudly she was sure it could be heard beyond the door. Then, softly, almost tenderly, came a voice. "Sarah." Her name. Drawn out in a rasp, broken and wet, like a whisper dragged through water. She froze, every muscle locked. No one should know she was here. The realtor hadn't given her name to anyone, at least, not that she knew. She forced her voice out in a whisper, shaky but firm. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the sound of breathing, slow, steady, right on the other side of the door. Her eyes flicked to the mirror hanging across from the bed. The glass was old, warped at the edges. She saw herself reflected back, pale face, wide eyes. But her reflection wasn't still. Its lips moved, forming words she couldn't hear. Sarah scrambled from the bed, her pulse roaring in her ears. The reflection's mouth stretched into a smile she wasn't making. And in the silence, the voice outside the door whispered again. "Let me in." Sarah backed away from the mirror, her shoulder striking the bedpost with a dull thud. Pain lanced down her arm, but she barely felt it. Her eyes stayed locked on the glass, where her reflection's grin only widened, teeth bared in something that had nothing to do with her. "Stop it," she whispered, though whether to the mirror or the door, she didn't know. The knob rattled again, harder this time, then stilled. The breathing beyond the door faded, swallowed by the storm's low growl outside. Sarah didn't move for what felt like hours. Eventually, she crept toward the mirror, her footsteps whispering over the floorboards. She leaned close, her breath fogging the glass. Her reflection did the same, except when Sarah tilted her head, the reflection didn't. It stayed watching her, smiling faintly. Her phone buzzed suddenly in her hand. She yelped and nearly dropped it. But when she looked down at the screen, there were no notifications. The screen was black, though she hadn't touched the power button. Her reflection mouthed something again. This time she caught it. "We're waiting." A jolt of cold shot through her. She stumbled back, slamming into the dresser, the lamp rattling on its base. "No," she muttered. "This isn't real. You're tired. It's just exhaustion." But then a new sound rose in the silence. Not from the door. Not from the mirror. From under the bed. A low, dragging scrape, like fingernails trailing against wood. Sarah dropped to her knees, clutching the blanket to her chest, her breath coming in short gasps. She didn't want to look. Every part of her screamed to run, but her body moved against her will. Slowly, she bent down, her eyes straining into the black gap beneath the bed. Something moved. Not a shadow. Not her imagination. A pale hand, fingers too long, curling against the floorboards. And then a second hand. Sarah's throat tightened until she thought she might choke. The pale hands clawed forward, knuckles dragging with that awful scraping sound. They weren't quick. They weren't even purposeful. They moved with the sluggish inevitability of something that had been waiting far too long. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear the pulse in her ears. She scrambled backward, her heel catching on the rug. The movement drew a reaction, slow, deliberate fingers curling tighter against the wood, as though preparing to pull the rest of the body into view. "No," Sarah whispered. Her voice cracked. "No, you're not real." The mirror across the room disagreed. Her reflection had left the bed entirely, standing behind her now, grinning wide as though she were enjoying the show. Sarah grabbed the lamp from the nightstand, clutching its ceramic base like a weapon. "Stay back!" she hissed, though her voice trembled. The hands stilled. For a moment, silence pressed heavy. She thought, hoped, it might stop. Then, With agonizing slowness, a head pushed forward. The hair was stringy and wet, strands clinging to skin as pale as candle wax. Eyes glimmered in the dark, two pools of black, too wide, too deep. A mouth opened, and Sarah expected a scream, a hiss, something inhuman. Instead, it whispered her name. Sarah. The same voice she'd heard at the door. She staggered to her feet, the lamp raised high. "Get away from me!" The figure froze beneath the bed, lips still moving though no sound escaped. And then the mirror spoke for it. Her reflection leaned close to the glass, mouthing the words Sarah already knew. "Let me in." The light bulb in the lamp flickered once, twice, then burst. The room plunged into darkness. The shattering bulb left Sarah blind. Tiny shards of glass tinkled across the floor, the smell of burnt filament sharp in the air. She stumbled backward, clutching the useless lamp base like a club. Her breathing came too fast, ragged and uneven. Somewhere in the blackness beneath the bed, she heard movement, the scrape of nails dragging again, the shift of something crawling closer. "No," she whispered, more to herself than to whatever was in the room. "You're not real, you're not real." The floorboards groaned. This time not from under the bed. From the hallway. Her blood ran cold. Two sounds now, the dragging crawl beneath her, and the heavy, deliberate steps outside the door. The knob rattled once, then turned, slow and steady, as though someone had all the time in the world. Sarah lunged for her phone, praying the flashlight would still work. The screen came alive, blinding in the dark. She swept the beam under the bed. Nothing. Only dust, floorboards, and the shadow of her shaking hands. She swallowed a scream, whipping the light toward the mirror. Her reflection stood inches away, face pressed against the inside of the glass. It smiled, blood running thin from its nose, smearing down the warped surface. The door creaked open. Sarah spun, the phone's beam catching the narrow gap. Beyond it, nothing but darkness, deeper than the unlit hallway should allow. The smell of wet earth spilled into the room, thick and cloying. Her instincts took over. She bolted, rushing past the door before she could think twice. The hallway stretched before her, lined with doors that seemed too close together, as though the house had grown more rooms in her absence. Behind her, the bedroom door slammed shut. Her phone light flickered once, twice, then died. She was alone in the hall, swallowed by the dark. And something was following. Sarah's footsteps echoed too loudly in the hallway, each one swallowed and returned to her ears as if the house were mocking her. She pressed a hand to the wall for balance, the wallpaper clammy and peeling under her touch. The dark pressed in thickly, broken only by the occasional flare of lightning through cracks in the shutters. For a moment, the flashes gave her glimpses of the house, warped picture frames, their images water-stained and indistinct, doors that leaned in their frames, handles glinting like watchful eyes, the long runner rug beneath her feet, its pattern writhing whenever she blinked. "Front door," she whispered to herself. Her voice was hoarse, barely audible. "Get to the front door. Get out. Just go." But as she pushed forward, the hallway stretched. The end she swore had been only a few steps away now receded, lengthening with each pace. She quickened her stride, then broke into a run, her breath ragged in the thick air. Behind her, the sound followed. Not the shuffle this time, but heavier, measured footsteps. Slow, steady, patient. They didn't need to rush. Her pulse thundered. She threw herself at the nearest door, wrenching it open. The room inside wasn't a room at all. It was another hallway. Identical wallpaper, identical rug, identical flickering shadows. "No, no, no," she whispered, backing away. The footsteps behind her grew louder, closer. She slammed the door shut, pressing her back against the wood. A voice drifted through the darkness, closer than it should have been. "Sarah!" She spun, chest heaving. A flash of lightning illuminated the wall ahead. Her reflection was there, framed in a warped, gilt-edged mirror she swore hadn't been there moments ago. It pressed its palms against the inside of the glass, eyes wild and lips parted in a manic grin. "This way," it mouthed, and the footsteps drew nearer. Sarah's breath clouded the air as she backed away from the mirror. Her reflection's hands pressed against the inside of the glass, fingers splayed wide, nails tapping as though urging her closer. Its grin was too sharp, too eager. "No," she whispered. "You're not me." Behind her, the footsteps closed in, slow, deliberate, like someone savoring the chase. The air thickened with the scent of wet soil, and beneath it, a copper tang that made her stomach lurch. Her reflection tilted its head, eyes glittering with an intensity that made her want to look away. The lips moved again, clear this time. "Trust me." Lightning cracked, illuminating the hallway for a split second. The figure behind her was closer now. Too close. She hadn't seen its face, only a tall, crooked shadow, arms hanging too long at its sides, as if they'd been pulled from their sockets and set back wrong. Sarah's choices strangled her. Run deeper into the endless hallway. Face the thing that followed. Or, she glanced back at the mirror. Her reflection was no longer smiling. It looked desperate, pounding silently against the inside of the glass. "Do it!" it mouthed over and over, as if time were running out. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in, more suffocating than sound. She could feel it behind her, towering, its breath stirring the hair at the back of her neck. Tears pricked her eyes. She reached out a trembling hand and touched the cold surface of the mirror. Her reflection matched the movement exactly. Except when her fingertips brushed the glass, it wasn't solid. Her hand sank through, swallowed by a chill so deep it felt like drowning. The figure behind her exhaled, a rattling sigh of disappointment, or anticipation. With a strangled cry, Sarah shoved herself forward. The mirror swallowed her whole. The hallway vanished. And she fell. Sarah hit the floor hard. Cold wood smacked against her palms, and her breath tore from her chest. For a moment, she lay there, stunned, listening to the ringing in her ears. When she opened her eyes, the world was wrong. The hallway stretched before her, but it was dimmer, washed in a gray light that seemed to come from nowhere. The wallpaper was the same pattern, but the flowers had wilted, their petals curling black. The rug under her hands felt damp, as though water had soaked into the fibers years ago and never dried. She turned her head. The mirror was still there, but it no longer showed her. Instead, it showed the hallway she had just left. The real hallway. In its reflection, she saw the figure. Tall. Crooked. Standing exactly where she had been. Its head tilted bird-like, as if sniffing the air. It leaned closer to the glass, but it didn't cross. Its mouth stretched wide, revealing teeth too long and thin. It smiled at her. Sarah scrambled backward, her shoulders striking the wall. No, no, no! The reflection that had pulled her in appeared beside her now, kneeling on the warped rug. It looked exactly like her, but calmer, steadier. "You're safe here," it said, though its lips didn't quite match the words. "For now." Sarah's chest heaved. "Where is this?" The reflection's eyes darkened. "The house beneath the house." Her skin prickled. Somewhere deeper down the hall, something moved. Not footsteps this time. A dragging sound, wet and heavy, like something being hauled across the boards. Her reflection rose, holding out a hand. "Come with me. Before it finds you." Sarah stared at the hand, pale and trembling. She didn't want to take it. But the dragging was getting closer. Much closer. Sarah hesitated, staring at the outstretched hand. It looked like hers, same lines, same trembling fingers, but when she finally took it, the skin felt wrong. Too cold. Too smooth. Her reflection pulled her to her feet with surprising strength. "This way," it urged, glancing down the dim corridor. The dragging sound was louder now, echoing through the warped halls. Sarah clutched her chest, trying to steady her breathing. She wanted to run back to the mirror, but when she looked, it was gone. Only bare wall remained, the surface damp with a faint sheen, as though it had recently been licked clean by water. Her knees nearly buckled. "No, no, I need to go back." "You can't," the reflection snapped, voice sharp enough to cut. Then it softened, its lips curving into something almost kind. "But you can survive here. If you follow me." Sarah had no choice. The sound was growing, closer and closer. With each wet drag, she imagined claws, or bodies pulled across the floor, or worse, something she couldn't yet name. They hurried down the corridor. The walls seemed to lean inward as they passed, the wallpaper pulsing faintly, like skin stretched over something alive. Doors lined the hall, but when Sarah reached for one, her reflection slapped her hand away. "Don't," it hissed. "Not those rooms. Not ever." The dragging sound stopped. Sarah froze, chest tight. Silence. Heavy. Expectant. Her reflections gripped tight and painfully. "Don't move." Something slithered across the ceiling above them. Slow, deliberate. The boards creaked as if bearing weight, dust sprinkling down onto Sarah's hair. She dared to tilt her head back, just a fraction. A face peered down through the cracks. Upside down. Mouth stretched too wide. Sarah's scream died in her throat. The face pressed closer to the cracks, its eyes glistening like pools of ink. Upside down, it studied Sarah with unnatural stillness, its lips parting slowly as though savoring her fear. Her reflection squeezed her hand so hard Sarah gasped. "Don't look at it!" But she couldn't stop. The thing blinked, or maybe it didn't. Maybe the skin around its sockets just rippled like water. Its jaw began to open wider, unhinging until it split far beyond what was human. A wet, clicking noise echoed above. Sarah's legs shook. What is that?" she whispered. Her reflection didn't answer. Its eyes darted upward, then back to Sarah. "Move!" Quietly. They stepped forward. Each creak of the warped floor sounded deafening. The ceiling groaned above, the weight shifting as the thing began to crawl. Its limbs dragged, scraping bone against wood. Sarah's heart raced as she heard more clicks, more than one. She realized there were several of them, crawling in tandem, stalking them from above. Her reflection yanked her toward a door at the end of the corridor. Unlike the others, this one was different, arched, its frame carved with shapes Sarah didn't recognize. The handle was iron, slick with condensation. The dragging behind them returned. Heavy. Closer. The things above weren't the only hunters. Her reflection shoved her toward the door. "Open it!" Sarah's fingers slipped against the iron handle. She forced it down, pushing with all her strength. The door groaned open, revealing a staircase spiraling downward into darkness. The ceiling split open with a crack. A pale arm, jointed wrong, plunged down through the boards, grasping wildly. Its nails screeched against the wall. Her reflection shoved Sarah through the doorway, slamming the door behind them. "Down!" it commanded. "Don't stop." The sound of splintering wood followed as the creatures began to force their way through, and Sarah descended into the dark. The staircase spiraled endlessly, each step slick beneath Sarah's boots. The air grew colder the farther she went, thick with the smell of mildew and stagnant water. Her fingers grazed the wall for balance, but the stone was damp and pulsed faintly under her touch, as if veins ran just beneath the surface. Above, the pounding had begun. The things on the ceiling were tearing their way through, claws raking against wood, their shrill clicks echoing down the stairwell. Sarah moved faster, breath hitching with every step. Her reflection followed, its voice sharp. "Don't look back." I can't do this," Sarah gasped. "You can't," the reflection snapped. "Or you'll die here." The words drove her forward. After what felt like forever, the staircase opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling soared high above, lost in shadows, and the floor stretched wide, littered with broken furniture, fragments of wallpaper, and pools of dark water that reflected nothing. At the far end stood a fireplace, massive and blackened with soot. Above it hung a painting, tilted and cracked, its subject too faded to make out, but the eyes had been scratched out violently, leaving only gouged holes. Sarah shivered. "What is this place?" Her reflection stepped beside her, its gaze fixed on the painting. "The heart of the house. The part it hides." The pounding from the staircase grew louder. A crack split the ceiling above them, dust spilling into the chamber. Her reflection grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the fireplace. "We have to go. Now." Sarah dug her heels into the warped floor. "Where? Where does it even lead?" Her reflection's mouth curled into a sharp, mirthless smile. "Deeper." The chamber trembled. From the pools of water, bubbles began to rise. One by one, pale shapes stirred beneath the surface, pressing upward as if eager to break free. Something beneath was waking. The first bubble broke the surface with a wet pop. Then another. And another. The pools rippled violently, water sloshing onto the cracked tiles at Sarah's feet. Her reflection's grip tightened on her wrist. "Don't look," it hissed. But Sarah couldn't help it. Her eyes locked on the water as a pale hand emerged, limp and boneless, flopping onto the edge of the pool. The fingers twitched, too many joints bending the wrong way. Her stomach turned. What is that?" "Not yours to know," her reflection said quickly. Its voice carried a tremor for the first time. "Move!" Sarah stumbled back as the rest of the thing dragged itself upward. Shoulders surfaced first, followed by a face half drowned, skin sagging as if it had rotted for years at the bottom. The eyes snapped open, milky and blind, yet somehow still seeing. The air thickened with the stench of decay. Another pool rippled. A second figure stirred. Then a third. All of them clawing upward, their breaths wheezing like wine through broken flutes. Panic surged through Sarah. "We're trapped!" Her reflection shoved her toward the fireplace. "Not if we burn the way open." Sarah blinked at the soot-black maw of the hearth. "Burn? With what? There's nothing here." Her reflection bent, snatching a shard of wood from the ruined furniture. Its face twisted with urgency. "The house is tinder. It wants to burn." The pale creatures pulled themselves further onto the floor, water streaming from their bodies in dark rivulets. One opened its mouth, and a wet, gurgling cry echoed through the chamber. The others joined, a chorus of choking moans that made Sarah's skin crawl. The ceiling above them cracked wide. Dust rained down as clawed hands tore through, reaching. Sarah's reflection thrust the wood shard into her hands. "Light it! Strike the stone! Hurry!" Sarah stared at the fireplace. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the splintered wood. The first of the drowned things lurched forward, its blind eyes fixed on her, arms outstretched. And then it spoke in a voice she knew too well. "Sarah!" The sound of her name froze Sarah's blood. The drowned thing staggered closer, its lips barely holding together as it mouthed the syllables again. "Sarah!" Her reflection grabbed her shoulder, shoving her back toward the hearth. "Don't listen!" But she couldn't stop. The voice was wrong, broken, but beneath the gurgling she recognized it. Too familiar. It was her father's. Sarah shook her head violently. "No. No, that's impossible. He's gone." The second creature dragged itself from the water, ribs jutting through slack skin, throat bubbling with black fluid. It wheezed her name in her mother's voice. The third followed, speaking with the high, cracked tones of her younger brother. Sarah's knees weakened. She almost dropped the wood shard. Why do they sound like? They're not your family." Her reflection snarled. "They're bait. The house knows what you'll follow. Don't listen, or you'll never leave." The drowned things lurched forward in unison, their voices layering together into a grotesque harmony. Her name filled the chamber, echoing off the damp stone walls, twisting into a chant. "Sarah! Sarah! Sarah!" Her chest convulsed with sobs she couldn't suppress. Every instinct screamed to run toward them, to reach out, to believe they had somehow returned. The ceiling above split further. A pale, jointed limb slid down, clutching at the air. The things from above were coming through. Her reflection snatched the wood from her trembling hands. "Useless!" it barked. Then it drove the shard against the hearthstone, sparks flying. The fireplace roared to sudden life, flames bursting as if waiting for the command. The firelight painted the chamber red, shadows stretching long and sharp. The drowned things recoiled, hissing, their voices warped into screams, screams that still carried her family's tones, twisting grief into terror. Sarah covered her ears. "Stop it! Stop it!" Her reflection shoved her hard toward the fire. "Through!" Sarah stumbled, heat searing her skin. She turned back once, tears streaking her cheeks, as the creatures clawed against the floor, their voices breaking on her name. And then she plunged into the fire. The fire didn't burn. Sarah stumbled forward, bracing for agony, but instead of flames there was only searing cold. The world around her flickered as if she'd stepped through a veil. For a moment she couldn't breathe, her lungs filled with ash and frost in the same choking gasp. Then her feet struck stone. She fell hard onto her hands and knees, coughing. The firelight was gone. She found herself in a narrow tunnel. The walls curved tight, slick with condensation. A faint hum vibrated through the stone, steady and low, like the house itself was breathing. Behind her, the hearth flickered once, then sealed shut. Her reflection stepped through a heartbeat later, entirely unscathed. Its clothes weren't singed, not even touched by soot. Sarah blinked at it in disbelief. How are you not? It doesn't burn what belongs to it," the reflection said flatly. Sarah's stomach turned. "And what does that mean for me?" The reflection tilted its head, the faintest smile twitching at its lips. "We'll see." The hum grew louder. The walls quivered as droplets of water slid down their surfaces, soaking into the uneven stone floor. The air tasted metallic, sharp enough to sting her tongue. Sarah pushed to her feet, shivering. "Where are we going?" "Deeper." "Why do you keep saying that?" she snapped. Her voice echoed strangely in the tight passage, bouncing back distorted, as though a dozen unseen mouths whispered her words in mockery. The reflection ignored her. It walked ahead with confident steps, the shadows bending around it as though unwilling to touch. Sarah followed, trembling. The tunnel sloped downward, each step colder than the last. She hugged herself against the chill, her breath visible in the dark. After what felt like forever, the walls widened. They stepped into a chamber so vast Sarah couldn't see its end. The ceiling soared high above, disappearing into blackness. The floor was stone, carved with circular patterns that pulsed faintly with dim light, like veins beneath skin. At the center of the chamber stood a chair. Not wood, not stone. Something else. And in it, someone was waiting. The chair loomed at the center of the vast chamber, tall-backed and twisted, made of a material Sarah couldn't place. At first glance, it resembled bone, long, curved spines fused together. But when she stepped closer, the surface flexed faintly, like cartilage under pressure. Her stomach churned. The figure sitting in the chair was slumped forward, head bowed. Wisps of dark hair clung to its gaunt face. Its hands dangled over the armrests, fingers curled inward as though drained of strength. Sarah stopped several paces away. Her voice came out as a rasp. Who is that?" Her reflection circled slowly, its bare feet soundless against the stone. "The one the house remembers. The one it keeps." Sarah's pulse quickened. "Keeps? What do you mean?" The reflection didn't answer. Instead, it bent near the figure's shoulder, whispering into its ear. The sound was too soft for Sarah to hear, but the figure stirred. A shiver raced through her. The head lifted. Slowly. Painfully. I stared back at her, hollow and bloodshot, ringed by dark shadows. When the mouth opened, the voice that spilled out was cracked, papery, yet unmistakable. "Sarah!" Her knees buckled. "No!" The figure rose from the chair. Its body was thin, but impossibly tall, every movement accompanied by the sound of joints grinding against one another. It stepped toward her, its bare feet leaving damp prints on the stone. Sarah stumbled back. "You're not." But the face stopped her. It was her own. Older. Haggard. Skin pulled tight over sharp bones, lips pale as ash. Her reflection smiled, stepping aside like a host presenting a guest. "Meet the one who came before you." The older Sarah stretched out a trembling hand, fingers stained with something dark. "You shouldn't have come here," it whispered. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't move. The figure before her, so gaunt, so hollow-eyed, wore her face as if it had been carved from her own reflection. Her reflection lingered nearby, watching with that strange half-smile, eyes bright with something that looked too much like hunger. The older Sarah stepped closer, her thin arms trembling under their own weight. "I warned you not to come," she rasped, each word dragging like gravel. "But you never listened. You never did." Sarah shook her head violently, backing away. "You're not me. You can't be." The older version tilted her head, a movement sharp and bird-like. "Why do you think it led you here? The house doesn't choose at random. It remembers. It keeps." Her fingers reached toward Sarah's cheek, shaking. "It kept me." Sarah slapped the hand away, panic rising in her chest. "No. I just moved in. This is my first night." The reflection laughed softly, the sound echoing off the stone like water dripping into a well. "Every first night feels that way." The chamber seemed to darken. The faint veins of light pulsing across the floor grew dimmer, as if the room itself leaned closer to listen. Sarah's older self staggered back toward the chair, collapsing into it with a groan. Her eyes locked on Sarah's, wet with something between pity and madness. "You can leave, if you give it what it wants." Sarah's voice cracked. "What does it want?" The reflection leaned close, whispering into her ear. The words were icy, sharp enough to cut. "It wants you." Sarah's heart thundered. She turned wildly toward her older self, who now gripped the armrests of the chair as if trying to anchor herself against unseen hands pulling her down. Don't let it take you," the older Sarah begged, voice breaking. "Fight, or you'll rot here like me." The stone beneath Sarah's feet trembled. Something was waking below. The trembling beneath Sarah's feet deepened into a steady rhythm, like the beating of a massive heart buried beneath the stone. Dust rained from the ceiling. Cracks spidered across the floor, glowing faintly with that same sickly light. Her reflection leaned close, voice curling in her ear. "Do you feel it? The house is alive." Sarah shoved it away. "Stay away from me." The reflection only laughed, the sound doubling in the echoing chamber until it seemed to come from every wall. Her older self gripped the chair tighter. Her knuckles were white, her body taut, as if invisible chains bound her there. "Don't listen to it," she croaked. "Don't." The floor split with a sharp crack. Sarah stumbled as one of the glowing lines widened, spilling light so bright it seared her eyes. The air filled with a low groan, like wood bending under unbearable weight, though there was no wood here. From the fissure, a shape began to rise. At first, Sarah thought it was smoke, black, roiling, twisting as it climbed. But then she saw the glint of teeth, too many and too sharp, stretching through the vapor. The outline of limbs flickered in and out, not fully solid, yet horrifyingly real. Her reflection spread its arms as though welcoming the thing. "It remembers hunger." Sarah's chest seized with terror. She spun back toward her older self. "What do I do?" The woman in the chair met her eyes. "Run." The floor cracked wider. Heat rolled upward, thick with the stink of iron and rot. The shadowy figure clawed its way higher, its face a shifting mask of mouths opening and closing. The veins of light on the floor flared brighter, pulsing with the rhythm of the house's beating heart. Sarah backed away, every instinct screaming to flee, though there was nowhere to go. The tunnel she had entered through was gone, replaced by another blank wall. The chamber was sealing her in. Her reflection leaned close again, whispering like a lover. "It only takes one of you." The air thickened until every breath Sarah drew felt like inhaling smoke. The shadow clawed higher from the crack, its teeth clicking wetly in the dark. Her reflection stepped between her and the rising thing, head cocked, smile sharp. "It doesn't want both of us. Only one." Sarah's blood ran cold. "One of us?" The reflection's grin widened. "You or me?" The older Sarah in the chair convulsed suddenly, her thin arms straining against unseen restraints. "Don't listen!" she screamed, voice breaking. That's how it traps you. It makes you choose. It feeds either way. The house groaned around them, stone trembling, dust drifting down in thin veils. The fissure spread wider, the shadow's arms dragging against the glowing edges, leaving trails of black smoke that hissed when they touched the light. Sarah backed away, her mind spinning. This isn't real. None of this is real. But the reflection followed, mirroring her every move, step for step. You know I'm stronger, it whispered. Smarter. You wouldn't even survive a week out there. Let it take you, and I'll walk free. Free? Sarah spat, panic sharpening her voice. You're just me. You can't exist without me. The reflection tilted its head, almost pitying. Oh, I already do. The older Sarah gave a strangled laugh from the chair. And then one day you'll be here. Sitting. Waiting. Watching it all over again. Her eyes gleamed with madness. It always circles back. The floor split again with a violent crack. The shadow rose higher, its face resolving into something almost human, almost hers, before warping back into a blur of mouths. The reflection seized Sarah's wrist, nails digging into her skin. Choose or it will. Sarah wrenched free, heart pounding. No, no, there has to be another way. The chamber shook, the light dimming. The house seemed to lean closer, hungry for her answer. Sarah shook her head violently, stumbling backward until her shoulders struck the damp stone wall. No. I won't. I won't choose. Her reflection's smile faltered, sharpness giving way to something colder. You think you have a choice not to? The older Sarah in the chair barked a laugh that dissolved into a cough. That's what I said, too. I thought I could outweed it. Refuse. Resist. She leaned forward, eyes wide, wild. And now look at me. The chamber rumbled, dust cascading from above. The veins of light on the floor throbbed harder, faster, until the glow made Sarah's skin prickle with heat. The shadow clawed higher from the fissure, its many mouths whispering in unison. She couldn't make out the words, but the sound was unbearable, wet, scraping syllables that crawled into her skull. Sarah pressed her hands over her ears. Stop! Her reflection advanced, eyes burning with urgency. You can end it. Let me step forward. Give it you, and I'll carry on. That's mercy. Mercy? Sarah spat, trembling. You're not even real. The reflection's smile returned, crueler this time. Neither are you. Not here. The older Sarah screamed suddenly. Her body arched against the chair as if struck by lightning. The glowing veins surged upward, crawling across the stone like living roots, winding up her legs, her arms, burrowing into her skin. No! Sarah cried, surging forward instinctively, only for the reflection to block her path. This is what happens when you refuse, it hissed. The house takes anyway. The older Sarah's face twisted in agony. Her skin split in glowing cracks, light pouring from her mouth as she screamed. Her eyes burst into brilliance, leaving behind empty sockets glowing like coals. The chair swallowed her whole. When the light dimmed, only ash remained where she had sat. Sarah staggered back, her stomach lurching. God! The house groaned louder, the fissure widening, the shadow almost free. Sarah's chest heaved, her pulse hammering so violently she thought her ribs might crack. The reflection's words rang in her ears, you or me, but her body rebelled against the ultimatum. Every part of her screamed no. I won't choose, she said again, her voice trembling but louder this time. Her reflection's grin widened, stretching too far, cracking at the corners of its mouth. Then I'll choose for you. It lunged. Sarah staggered back just in time, the reflection's nails raking across the stone where her face had been. Sparks flared where it struck, too sharp, too real. Panic surged through her veins, but beneath it, something hot burned, anger. She had been dragged, stalked, cornered, taunted. No more. She seized a fragment of broken stone from the floor, its edges jagged, glowing faintly with the veins of light. She swung it hard. The reflection shrieked as the shard tore across its shoulder. Black fluid sprayed, sizzling as it hit the floor. The grin faltered, eyes narrowing into slits of rage. "You think you can hurt me?" it hissed. "I am you. Then you can bleed like me," Sarah snapped, raising the shard again. The fissure behind them roared, the shadow clawing higher. Its mouths opened in unison, spewing a sound like thousands of voices screaming through water. The walls quaked, chunks of stone crashing around them. Her reflection lunged again, faster this time, and the two collided. They tumbled across the glowing floor, Sarah's shard slicing again and again, her own screams mingling with the reflections. The heat of the veins seared her palms, but she didn't let go. The reflection's hands locked around her throat, squeezing. Its face hovered inches from hers, identical but twisted, eyes black pits. "Give in," it spat. "Let go." Stars burst behind Sarah's eyes as her air vanished. But with the last of her strength, she drove the shard upward, burying it deep in the reflection's chest. The thing convulsed, its grip loosening. For the first time, its face flickered, not her own, but something raw and alien. Then it collapsed, writhing, smoke spilling from the wound. The fissure thundered. The house was not pleased. The reflection writhed on the floor, its body convulsing as the black smoke poured from the wound. It clawed at the shard buried in its chest, but its fingers passed through as though the stone had fused with its body. Sarah staggered back, clutching her throat, coughing raggedly. Her lungs burned with each desperate gasp. She had expected triumph, relief, but all she felt was terror. Because the house was moving. The veins of light surged across the floor, branching outward, splitting the chamber into jagged patterns. The fissure roared wider, heat rolling out in choking waves. The shadow's arms stretched higher, its mouth opening in a chorus of screams that shook the air. The reflection lifted its head, blood bubbling from its lips. Its smile was crooked now, broken. "Fool, do you think it matters? Kill me, and the house still takes." Sarah's heart hammered. "Then I'll kill it too," she shouted hoarsely, pointing at the shadow. Her reflection's laughter rasped through the chamber, sharp and cruel. "You can't kill what isn't alive!" The floor beneath Sarah cracked, glowing brighter. She staggered as a circle of stone collapsed, leaving a pit yawning beneath her feet. From the darkness below, hands reached up, pale, boneless things, grasping and twitching. She stumbled away from the edge, her eyes darting wildly for escape. The tunnel she had entered by was sealed. The chair was gone. Only the fissure remained, widening with each heartbeat, the shadow rising higher. The reflection's body shuddered violently. Smoke erupted from the wound, curling upward like a beacon. The shadow leaned toward it, mouths opening wider, drinking in the black stream. Sarah's blood ran cold. The reflection wasn't dying, it was being fed to the thing. The house was feeding itself her other half. And once it was finished, it would want more. Sarah tightened her grip on the shard, her hands slick with blood and sweat. If it fed on her, too, would there be anything left? The chamber groaned, the sound of stone and flesh grinding together. The choice was gone now. It was fight, or be devoured. The chamber shuddered as the shadow climbed higher, its form swelling until it scraped the ceiling. Dozens of mouths gaped along its shifting surface, each whispering in a different voice. Some she knew, some she didn't. Her father, her mother, strangers, all of them chanting her name. "Sarah! Sarah! Sarah!" Her knees trembled. The shard in her hand glowed faintly, its jagged edge pulsing with the veins of light from the floor. It burned her palm, but she clutched it tighter. The reflection's body convulsed again, smoke pouring upward, feeding the shadow. It grew stronger, its mouth stretching wider, dripping strands of black fluid that hissed when they struck the stone. Sarah's chest heaved. "This is it," she thought. "Either I fight, or I end here." She forced herself forward, each step heavy in the trembling chamber. Her voice cracked but rose above the cacophony. "You don't get me. You don't get any more." The shadow bent toward her, its surface rippling. A single massive mouth opened, splitting across its body. Rows of jagged teeth glistened in the glow. The chant stopped, replaced by one long inhale, dragging the air from her lungs. Sarah staggered, gasping. Her body screamed at her to run. But instead she lifted the shard high and drove it into the glowing veins at her feet. Light erupted, blinding. The chamber wailed. The floor split wider, light flooding upward, searing the shadow. It screamed in 1,000 voices, twisting violently, its mouth snapping shut in pain. Sarah fell to her knees, gripping the shard as it pulsed like a living thing. She forced it deeper into the stone, shouting through her tears, "You don't own me!" The veins surged outward like lightning, racing up the walls, striking the shadow's form. Each strike tore chunks away, unraveling its mass into smoke. Her reflection shrieked, its body breaking apart along with the thing it had been feeding. "No, you can't! You were mine!" The light flared brighter, drowning the chamber in blinding radiance. The floor buckled beneath her, and then everything collapsed. Sarah came to with a gasp, her body sprawled across cold wood. For a heartbeat she thought she was still in the chamber, but when her eyes adjusted, she realized she was lying on the floor of her bedroom. The lamp she had shattered lay in pieces beside her. The wallpaper was the same faded pattern, the rug the same dull weave. Rain whispered against the windows once more. For a long time, she didn't move. She only listened, waiting for the shuffle of feet, the creak of the doorknob, the whisper of her name. But there was nothing. Only silence, broken by the storm outside. Her hand stung. She lifted it. The shard was still there, clutched so tightly her knuckles were white. But it was no longer glowing. It was only a piece of broken mirror, its edge dull, streaked with her blood. Her stomach twisted. "It wasn't real," she whispered. "It couldn't have been." But when she staggered to her feet, her gaze fell to the bed. The floor beneath it was scorched. A blackened outline spread outward from the frame, burned into the boards as though fire had clawed its way up from below. Sarah's knees buckled. She pressed a hand to her mouth, stifling a sob. Her phone buzzed suddenly on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a single notification. One missed call, unknown number. Her heart froze. The screen flickered, static filling the display, before the phone vibrated again. This time, the caller ID was clear. Sarah. The phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. She stumbled back, pressing herself against the wall. The mirror across the room gleamed faintly in the dark. Her reflection stood inside it again, smiling. And behind her reflection, barely visible in the glass, the tall shadow waited. Sarah pressed harder against the wall, her breath rattling in her chest. The mirror across the room shimmered faintly, as though water lay just beneath the glass. Her reflection smiled wider, lips parting in a slow, deliberate laugh she couldn't hear. On the floor, her phone buzzed again. She dared to glance at the screen. Incoming call, Sarah. The ringtone was distorted, tinny, like a voice dragged through static. She didn't answer, but the sound filled the room anyway. Sarah. Her throat closed. That voice, it wasn't hers. It wasn't her reflection's either. It was deeper, layered, as if a dozen mouths were speaking in unison. She kicked the phone, sending it skidding under the bed. The ringing muffled but didn't stop. Her gaze snapped back to the mirror. Her reflection was no longer standing. It was closer, much closer. Pressed against the glass, palms flat, eyes gleaming. The shadow behind it leaned forward, its teeth flashing like knives in the dim light. Sarah's chest heaved. No. I broke you. I burned you. You're gone. The reflection mouthed the words slowly, tauntingly. Let me in. The window shuddered as a gust of wind rattled the shutters. For a moment, Sarah thought it was only the storm. But then she heard it, soft, dragging steps in the hallway. Her heart stopped. The door creaked. The knob trembled, rattling against unseen hands. Sarah grabbed the nearest thing she could find, a rusted iron candlestick from the dresser, and raised it high, her arms trembling. Stay away from me, she cried, her voice raw. The mirror rippled like disturbed water. Her reflection leaned through. First the hands pale and smooth, Then the face, her own, but stretched, lips tearing at the corners as it smiled. Sarah screamed and swung the candlestick. The glass exploded outward in a rain of shards. When the dust cleared, the mirror was gone. But her reflection was not. It stood in the room with her now. Glass crunched under Sarah's bare feet as she backed toward the bed. Her reflection stood where the mirror had been, head cocked, smiling faintly as if amused by her terror. Up close, it was worse. The skin was too smooth, almost waxy, the eyes too bright. It moved with a fluidity that made Sarah's own body feel clumsy by comparison. "You don't belong here," Sarah rasped, brandishing the iron candlestick. The reflection tilted its head. When it spoke, the voice was hers, perfectly hers, but colder. "Neither do you." It stepped forward. Sarah swung. The candlestick whistled through the air, but the reflection caught it effortlessly, wrenching it from her grip. The iron clattered across the floor, useless. Panic surged. She scrambled onto the bed, grabbing a pillow as if it could shield her. Her reflection climbed onto the mattress after her, every movement precise, predatory. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah screamed. Her reflection's smile widened, lips stretching too far. "Because you never should have come. The house called me first. You're only the echo." It lunged. Sarah rolled aside, the mattress springs groaning under the weight of two bodies. She hit the floor hard, pain shooting up her arm, but adrenaline forced her up again. Her reflection crawled down the far side of the bed, head low, eyes locked on her. "I'm what the house wants. You're what it will take." Sarah's eyes darted to the shattered glass across the floor. She dove, snatching up a jagged shard. Her palm sliced open, blood dripping down her wrist, but she didn't let go. When the reflection pounced, Sarah drove the shard upward. It buried deep into the thing's chest. Her reflection gasped, eyes wide. For a heartbeat, its face flickered. Her mother's, her brother's, strangers she didn't know, all flashing across its features before snapping back to hers. Then it smiled, even with the shard buried deep. "Now we're the same." Blood slicked Sarah's palm as she yanked the shard free. Her reflection collapsed onto the bed, gasping, its waxy chest splitting open where the glass had pierced. For a moment, Sarah thought she'd won. Her breath came in ragged sobs as she stumbled back, clutching the shard, watching the figure writhe. Then the pain hit her. A sharp, burning lance shot through her own chest, just above her heart. She doubled over, screaming, her knees buckling beneath her. Her free hand clawed at her shirt, desperate to find the wound she knew wasn't there. But when she pulled her hand away, it came back slick with blood. Her reflection laughed through its gasps, a sound wet and rattling. "You see? We're bound. Hurt me, hurt yourself." Sarah staggered, her vision blurring. No, that's not possible." The reflection sat up slowly, its movements jerky now, like a puppet tugged by fraying strings. Its smile returned, blood dripping from the corners of its mouth. "Possible? You made it so. You gave me shape. You fed me when you looked in the glass. Now we share everything." The room tilted around Sarah. Her heart hammered painfully, every beat echoing in her ears. She pressed the shard against her reflection's throat, but froze. If she cut deeper, would she slit her own as well? The reflection leaned into the glass edge, unafraid. "Go on. End me. Let's see if you're brave enough to end yourself, too." Sarah's arm trembled violently. She dropped the shard. It clattered across the floor, spinning to a stop among the broken pieces of the mirror. The reflection tilted its head. "That's what I thought." The bedroom door creaked open. Sarah froze, her pulse leaping. The hallway beyond yawned black and endless. From within it came a dragging sound. Familiar. Patient. As though the house itself had come to collect her. Her reflection's grin widened. "It's still hungry." The dragging sound filled the doorway, slow and deliberate. Sarah's chest constricted as she watched the shadows lengthen across the floorboards. Something was coming. Her reflection slid gracefully off the bed, blood still glistening down its chest. "Don't you recognize it?" it whispered, eyes shining. It followed you back. Sarah shook her head violently. No. That was down there. In the chamber. I destroyed it. The reflection's grin widened. Did you? Or did you only give it away in? The door groaned wider, and the thing stepped into the room. At first, Sarah thought it was smoke, rolling, shifting, filling the corners. But then the shape solidified into long, crooked limbs. Its head brushed the ceiling, tilting sharply as though its neck were broken. Its face was a blur of mouths opening and closing, teeth gleaming faintly in the dim. The smell hit next, wet earth and rust. Sarah's knees gave way, and she scrambled back until her spine pressed against the wall. The iron candlestick was out of reach, the shards of glass scattered too far. All she had was her shaking breath. The reflection bowed slightly toward the creature, as though greeting a master. She's ready. Sarah's heart thudded painfully. I'm not yours. The creature bent its long frame, lowering itself until its many mouths hovered inches from her face. The sound of its inhale dragged the air from her lungs, leaving her choking, desperate for breath. One mouth spoke. Not many this time. Just one. Soft. Patient. Sarah. She sobbed, shaking her head. Stop saying my name! The reflection stepped closer, crouching beside her. You can't fight it. You never could. The house always takes. The creature opened its jaws wider, rows of teeth glistening in the faint light. Sarah screamed. Sarah's scream tore through the room, swallowed instantly by the thing's wheezing inhale. Her chest burned as if the air itself had been stolen, her body trembling on the verge of collapse. Her reflection crouched closer, whispering in her ear. Let it in. The more you fight, the longer it hurts. No, Sarah rasped. Her eyes darted wildly across the room. Shards of mirror glittered faintly on the floorboards, scattered like fallen stars. Her pulse roared in her ears. She lunged sideways, her hand closing around one of the larger shards. The glass bit deep into her palm, blood dripping fast, but she didn't let go. The reflection shrieked, reaching for her wrist. Fool! You'll kill yourself too! I don't care! Sarah shouted, and with every ounce of strength, she slashed at the creature. The shard cut through one of its gaping mouths. The room erupted in a scream so loud it rattled the windows. The creature reeled back, black fluid spilling onto the rug, sizzling like acid. Sarah collapsed to her knees, gasping desperately as air returned to her lungs. She pressed the shard against her own chest now, her hand shaking violently. If you're me, she hissed at her reflection, then you'll die first. The reflection froze, its smug grin faltering for the first time. The creature staggered in the corner, its mouth snapping wildly, shrieking in overlapping tones. The walls trembled, the ceiling bowed. The house itself groaned like it was coming apart. Sarah pressed the shard harder against her skin, feeling the sting of blood. I won't be your meal. I won't be your echo. I won't be yours. Her reflection's face twisted, eyes black with rage. Then you'll be nothing. The creature lunged again, all mouths opening at once. Sarah drove the shard inward. The world exploded in light and sound. And then, silence. Silence. Sarah floated in it, weightless, her body neither burning nor bleeding. For a moment she thought she was dead. Maybe that was the price. Maybe the house had won after all. Then came the voices. Not outside her. Inside. Whispers threaded through her skull, thousands of them, murmuring her name, overlapping, drowning her in sound. Some voices she recognized, family, co-workers, even her own. Others were strangers, all speaking at once. She opened her eyes. The bedroom was gone. She was suspended in a vast gray expanse. No walls, no floor, only endless mist that coiled and shifted like breathing lungs. The shard she had driven into her chest was still there, glowing faintly, though her skin was unbroken. Across from her, the reflection hovered in the mist. Its smile was gone. Its face was slack with fury and fear. You don't belong here. It spat. Its voice echoed strangely, as if layered with countless others. Sarah clutched the shard tighter. Neither do you. The mist stirred. From its depths, shapes began to emerge. Pale hands. Hollow faces. Mouths that whispered and whispered but never stopped. The drowned things. The ceiling crawlers. All of them rising, circling. Sarah's chest seized. No, no, I ended you. The reflection laughed bitterly. You can't end what the house remembers. You only joined them. The voices surged louder. The mist pressed closer. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut. It isn't real. It isn't real. It isn't real. When she opened them again, she was lying on the bedroom floor. The lamp was whole, unbroken. The mirror intact. The door closed. Rain tapped gently at the window, steady, soothing. For a moment, she thought it was a dream. Her chest ached, her palms stung, but there was no blood. No shard. No reflection smiling at her from the glass. Sarah staggered to her feet, dazed. Relief trembled through her bones. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand. New voicemail, 1. She pressed play with shaking hands. Her own voice answered, whispering through the speaker. Let me in. Sarah dropped the phone as if it had burned her. It clattered onto the nightstand, the voicemail still playing, her own voice hissing through the tiny speaker. Let me in, let me in. Her stomach lurched. She pressed her palms over her ears, but the whisper was already inside her head, repeating in rhythm with her heartbeat. She staggered to the mirror, desperate to shatter it again, but froze. Her reflection stared back. Perfectly ordinary. Same trembling hands, same wide, terrified eyes. No grin. No shadow. Sarah's breath came shallow. It's over, she told herself. It has to be. The mirror agreed, calm and silent. Then the doorknob rattled. Sarah's head snapped toward it, heart leaping to her throat. No. Not again. The knob turned slowly, the click of the latch loud as thunder. She backed away, her knees striking the bed. The door groaned open. But there was no shadow, no crawling thing. It was her. Her reflection stepped through the doorway as though the mirror had always been a door. Its expression was blank now, empty-eyed, movements precise. Sarah's voice cracked. No, you're still here. The reflection tilted its head, studying her like a specimen. This is the first night, it said softly. It's always the first night. Sarah's breath caught. The words were wrong, rehearsed, like lines from a play. What do you mean? Her reflection blinked slowly, then smiled. You'll ask that every time. The phone on the nightstand buzzed again. One new voicemail, unknown. Her reflection stepped closer. You never leave, Sarah. You only circle. The storm outside deepened, thunder rolling like distant laughter. Sarah's legs gave way. She collapsed onto the bed, her hands clutching the blanket. No, she whispered. No, I fought you. The reflection leaned close, lips brushing her ear. But the house never lets go. Sarah's heart pounded so hard it hurt. No, she whispered again, her throat raw. I can't be trapped. I can't. Her reflection straightened, its smile fading into something colder. You already are. You always were. The words echoed around the room, reverberating in the walls, in the floorboards, in the storm outside. Sarah pressed her hands to her ears, but the sound sank deeper, curling into her skull. She stumbled toward the door, desperate to escape, but when she threw it wide, the hallway stretched endlessly before her, lined with the same wallpaper, the same rug. The air smelled of damp earth. Her knees weakened. This isn't real. This isn't real. Her reflection's voice came from behind her, steady, inevitable. You said that last time. Sarah froze. Slowly she turned. The reflection now sat calmly on the bed, hands folded in its lap, as though it had always belonged there. Its head tilted slightly, studying her. Do you want to hear something cruel? Sarah's chest heaved, but she couldn't speak. The reflection leaned forward. I don't even remember which of us started first. Was it you? Or me? Or another before us both? Sarah shook her head violently. Stop it! Stop talking. You'll forget too, the reflection said softly. The house makes sure of it. The phone buzzed again on the nightstand. One new voicemail. Sarah backed away, her heel crunching on the broken glass she swore she had cleaned. Shards glittered faintly, scattered across the floor. She looked down at her palm, still torn, still bleeding from the cut she had made before. Her reflection's smile returned, wide and patient. See? The wound always stays. Sarah's body trembled with rage and terror. She seized the candlestick from the dresser and raised it high, screaming. Then I'll end it now. The reflection didn't move, didn't flinch. It only whispered, That's what you always say. And then the door slammed shut behind her, plunging the room into darkness. Darkness swallowed the room. Sarah's scream lodged in her throat as she groped blindly, the candlestick heavy in her hand. Then, click! The lamp flickered on. Its soft yellow glow painted the wallpaper, the rug, the dresser. Everything exactly as it had been the moment she'd first walked in. Her reflection sat cross-legged on the bed, calm as ever. Round and round, it said. Sarah's chest heaved. No, I'll prove you wrong. She bolted for the window, wrenching the shutters open. Rain lashed her face as she forced the glass upward. Cold night air flooded the room. Below her, the gravel drive stretched toward the road. Her car sat waiting. Hope flared. She swung a leg over the sill. Her reflection's voice drifted behind her. Go on, then. See what waits outside. Sarah dropped into the storm. The gravel crunched under her boots as she sprinted to the car. She yanked the door open, fumbling the keys into the ignition with trembling hands. The engine roared to life. She floored the gas, tires spitting water and stone. But the road didn't end. She drove and drove, wipers smearing rain across the windshield, headlights cutting into black trees that never seemed to pass. No matter how far she pressed, the mailbox appeared again. Oh, Mill Road. Her heart sank. She braked hard, gravel spraying. She stumbled from the car, screaming into the rain. Let me out! The storm swallowed her words. Behind her, the house loomed again. Its windows glowed faintly, like watchful eyes. Her reflection stood on the porch, waving slowly, patiently. Sarah fell to her knees in the wet gravel, sobbing. She had escaped the room, escaped the chamber, even struck at the shadow itself. And still, she was back where she began. The loop was real, and the house had forever. Sarah knelt in the rain, gravel biting into her skin, her sobs drowned by the storm. The house loomed above her, its silhouette blurred by water, windows glowing faintly like eyes too patient to blink. Her reflection stood on the porch, still waving. The gesture wasn't mocking anymore, it was inviting. Sarah's nails dug into her palms. Running doesn't work. Escaping doesn't work. The thought throbbed with the rhythm of her heartbeat. Then I'll face it. I'll burn it down. She rose, body trembling, rain plastering her hair to her face. The gravel crunched under her boots as she marched back up the drive. Her reflection tilted its head, grin widening as though it had been waiting for this. Welcome home, it whispered as she stepped onto the porch. Sarah shoved past it, shouldering the door open. The air inside hit her like a wall, thick, damp, metallic. The house groaned in recognition, its boards creaking as though adjusting to her return. She stormed into the kitchen, rifling through drawers until she found a box of matches, old but dry. Her hands shook as she struck one. The tiny flame sputtered, casting long shadows. Her reflection lingered in the doorway, its smile calm. Go ahead. Try. You'll only light what it lets you. Sarah snarled, tossing the flame into a curtain. For an instant, fire flared, then fizzled into smoke, leaving the fabric untouched. She lit another, throwing it into a pile of papers on the counter. Again, nothing but smoke. Her breath hitched. She struck match after match, flinging them wildly, until her fingers burned. Each flame died the same way, snuffed out by the house itself. Her reflection's laugh slithered through the room. It doesn't burn. It feeds. Sarah turned on it, eyes wild, her voice breaking into a scream. Then what does it want? The house answered. Every door in the hallway slammed open at once. The sound echoed like gunfire, and from each room, a whisper rose, low, endless, hungry. Sarah. The whisper rolled through the house like a tide, each syllable brushing against Sarah's skin, curling into her bones. Sarah. Her reflection leaned against the doorway, smiling faintly. It's calling. You should answer. No, Sarah rasped, clutching the box of matches to her chest. It's a trick. It's always a trick. But the whispers deepened, harmonizing until the air vibrated. Her name became a chant, rising from every room, each voice layered with another, high and low, broken and clear, some familiar, some strange. She heard her mother, her father, her brother, herself. Tears blurred her vision. Stop it, she begged. Stop. The hallway stretched before her, all doors yawning open. Beyond them waited darkness, thick and swallowing. She stepped closer despite herself, pulled by the chant. Her reflection's grin widened. You see? You're already listening. Sarah's hands shook as she struck another match, holding it high. The flame wavered, weak against the shadows, but it pushed back the dark just enough. She approached the first door. Inside was a bedroom, hers, but not. The furniture was arranged exactly as in her apartment back in the city. Her favorite blanket, the half-read books stacked on the nightstand, even the photo of her family smiling awkwardly at Thanksgiving. Her knees buckled. This is mine. A voice drifted from the bed. Soft. Loving. Sarah. Her mother's voice. The figure on the bed sat up slowly, hair falling across its face. Its eyes glowed faintly, too bright, too hungry. The smile it wore stretched too wide. Sarah staggered back into the hall, clutching the match until it burned her fingers. She dropped it with a hiss. The whispers surged louder, pouring from the other rooms. Each one promised something she longed for: comfort, family, love. Her reflection stood at the end of the hall now, arms open, grin sharp. The house will give you everything. All you have to do is stay. The hall pulsed with voices, her name swelling in a tide of whispers. Sarah wiped the rain and tears from her face, her burned fingers trembling around the empty matchbox. She had only a few left. Her reflection beckoned from the far end of the hall, its grin stretching wider. Go on. Look. See what it offers you. Sarah clenched her jaw and stepped toward the next open door. This one revealed a kitchen, her kitchen. The counters clean, the cupboard stocked, the kettle hissing softly as if it had just boiled. Light spilled warmly from the fixtures, chasing away the shadows. And at the table, her father sat. Alive. Whole. His hands wrapped around a steaming mug. He looked up as if nothing had ever gone wrong. Sarah, he said gently. His voice carried no distortion, no rasp. It was him. Her chest collapsed inward. Dad? He gestured to the chair across from him. Come sit. You must be tired. You've been away too long. Her steps faltered. She wanted to run to him, to bury herself in the illusion. But she remembered the bedroom, her mother's glowing eyes, that too wide smile. Her father tilted his head. The warmth in his expression didn't falter. Don't you trust me? Sarah's throat tightened. She whispered, You're not real. The kitchen flickered. For a second, the cupboard sagged with rot, the kettle bled black liquid, the floor swarmed with crawling things. Then it was pristine again, her father smiling patiently. Don't say that, he said. Stay. You don't have to fight anymore. Sarah backed into the hall, her heart breaking. Her reflection clapped slowly, mockingly, its voice lilting. See? It gives you everything. You only have to surrender. Sarah's fingers tightened around the last few matches. Her stomach twisted with dread. If every door held a piece of her past, of what she wanted most, how long before she gave in? The voices rose in a chorus, calling her name, offering love, comfort, rest. She pressed her palms to her ears and screamed. The house only whispered louder. Sarah's legs trembled as she staggered down the hall, past the kitchen, past the glowing eyes that still lingered in the shadows of her mother's room. The whispers pressed against her skull, coaxing, soothing, promising. Her reflection drifted along the wall like smoke, always just ahead, its voice dripping with false sweetness. One more. Just one more. Maybe this one will be enough to break you. Sarah's fingers clutched the matches like a lifeline. She paused at the third door, her breath rattling in her throat. The whispers behind it were softer, almost melodic. A voice she hadn't heard in years. With shaking hands, she pushed the door open. The scent hit her first, lavender and worn books. The smell of her grandmother's house. Tears stung her eyes before she even stepped inside. And there she was, her grandmother, rocking slowly in an old wooden chair, knitting needles clicking softly. Her smile was warm, her eyes kind. "Sarah, darling," she said, her voice carrying all the love Sarah remembered. "You've gotten so thin. Come here, let me take care of you." Sarah's knees weakened. No, you died when I was 13. Her grandmother's head tilted. "Death doesn't matter here. Here, you're home. Here, we're together." The rocking chair creaked, steady and soothing. The knitting needles moved with impossible speed, yarn unraveling into patterns that writhed and shifted like living veins. Sarah's stomach twisted. "You're not her." The smile faltered. Her grandmother's hands stilled. Slowly, she lifted her head, and the kindness drained from her eyes. They gleamed white-hot, empty of pupils, empty of love. "Ungrateful child," the thing hissed. The knitting needles snapped in her hands, jagged ends pointed outward. "If you won't stay, then I'll keep you." Sarah slammed the door shut, sobbing. Her reflection leaned close, whispering against her ear. "They'll wear you down. Each room. Each memory. Until you can't tell what's them and what's you." The whispers from the closed door turned harsh, angry. Her grandmother's voice warped into a guttural chant. "Sarah. Sarah. Stay." Sarah pressed her forehead against the wall, shaking. She only had 2 matches left. And the hall stretched on, endless. Sarah clutched the last 2 matches so tightly the wood splintered in her palm. Her tears burned hot against her skin, her breath ragged. 3 doors had already nearly broken her. A 4th would shatter her completely. "No more," she whispered hoarsely. "I won't play your game." The whispers surged in response, filling the hall, each voice overlapping the next. Her name became a roar, vibrating through the walls, the floor, her own chest. The handles of the remaining doors rattled violently, as though the memories behind them strained to burst free. Her reflection glided closer, its grin sharp and cruel. "You don't have a choice. You'll open every door. You'll see every face. You'll beg for them to stay." Sarah struck a match, the flames sputtering weakly in the heavy air. She held it high, her eyes wild. "If I can't burn the house, then I'll burn myself before I let you win." Her reflection's smile faltered. "You wouldn't dare." Sarah brought the match close to her wrist, the fire searing her skin. The pain was sharp, real. "Try me." The whispers faltered, voices breaking into static, uncertain. The doors shuddered, but none opened. Her reflection hissed, its face twisting, the perfect mask cracking at the edges. "Coward! You'd destroy yourself rather than surrender to love?" "That wasn't love," Sarah spat. "That was a lie. Every room, every voice. You don't want me, you want what's left of me when I stop fighting." The flame guttered, almost dying, but Sarah shielded it with her trembling hands. She pressed the match to the wallpaper. For an instant, fire caught, running along the faded flowers. The house shrieked. The sound was unbearable, like wood splintering, glass shattering, flesh tearing all at once. The hall buckled under her feet, the rug writhing as if alive. Sarah struck her final match. "If I can't leave, she whispered through her tears. Then I'll take you down with me. Her reflection lunged, screaming. And oh! And Sarah dropped the flame. The match fell like a tiny comet and caught, at first a thin ribbon of orange, then greedy tongues licking along the wallpaper's faded petals. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the house screamed. It was a sound that had no business coming from wood and plaster, a keening that rose through the floorboards and rattled the glass in the windows. The rug beneath Sarah's feet curled like a living thing, edges blackening and curling inward. The warm, inviting light in the ersatz kitchen guttered and went out. One by one doors slammed, but not against wind, they slammed as if the house itself recoiled. Her reflection lunged, face contorted with horror and fury. You idiot! It spat, voice hoarse. You're killing us both. Sarah didn't hear it clearly. The shriek of the house filled her ears. Heat pressed against her face. But the flames didn't burn flesh the way they should. Instead, they peeled away the illusion like varnish. A door she'd never opened before flared and buckled under smoky light, revealing not a room but a raw, pulsing surface, flesh stitched into wallpaper, eyes sewn into a portrait, mouths where doorknobs should be. The fire crawled across it, searing the grotesquerie until the sewn mouths unstitched and slithered free in a black, shrieking torrent. From somewhere below a cracked tone rang out, like a bell struck in a cavern, and with a cane movement, the thing in the fissure reared, not consumed but roused, as if the flames had fed it a different hunger. The shadows' mouths closed into tight, expectant points, tasting the smoke. Sarah felt something press at her ankles. She looked down. Hands, pale, familiar, were trying to cling to her. Faces pressed up from the floorboards, mouths forming words she'd heard in the nightmares. Her father, her grandmother, her brother, all of them, voices thin as thread. Don't let it go. Don't let it. Then silence as the fire licked their cheeks, and they dissolved into ash that smelled of rain. She wanted to stop. Every rational piece of her wanted to flee, to douse the match, to beg forgiveness from the thing she torched into life. But something deeper, something stubborn and fierce, pushed her forward. The house was learning to use the very things she feared to bind her: memory, comfort, grief. If the house fed on those, maybe fire could strip it bare. The reflection stumbled, bleeding dark smoke from a fractured smile. You think this frees you? It rasped. This only wakes it hungrier. Then from the center of the hall the floor split open, not with light but with a clean, cold silence, as if the house itself had inhaled and gone mute. The fissure yawned, and beyond its black throat Sarah could see movement, a shape moving slow and patient, not toward her but through her, as if it had learned to pass between the waking and whatever lay underneath. She dropped to her knees and pressed the matchbox into the burned palm of her hand, clutching the tiny sticks like a rosary. The house's scream bent into a low, almost satisfied hum. Around her, the wallpaper curled and peeled, revealing rooms stacked like pages, each a memory, each a promise, flames racing their edges. If this was the house's death throe or its waking, she could not tell. All she knew was the weight of choice: burn and maybe end the loop, or smother the flame and return to being bait. Her chest ached. The shard of mirror still lingered at the back of her mind like a pulse. She struck another match. The second match flared, trembling between Sarah's shaking fingers. For a heartbeat, she hesitated. The flame was fragile, a single shiver away from dying. Yet the house seemed to lean toward it, walls groaning, boards popping as if the structure itself held its breath. Her reflection clutched its chest, smoke leaking from the wound she'd given it. You don't understand. It rasped, its grin stretched and trembling. This place isn't wood and stone. It's a mouth. It eats what you give it. Fire only feeds the hunger. Sarah's lips curled into something between a snarl and a sob. Then I'll make it choke. She pressed the match to the floorboards. Flame leapt, racing along the glowing veins in the wood, veins she now realized weren't decoration at all. They pulsed faintly, carrying light like blood through arteries. The fire spread faster than it should, running down the hallway, licking up the doors, climbing the walls. The house screamed again, but this time the sound carried something else: laughter. Sarah stumbled back, shielding her face from the heat. The kitchen flared into view for one last second, cupboards bursting open to spill teeth instead of plates, and then collapsed into cinders. Her grandmother's door dissolved in fire, her voice screaming until it broke into ash. The reflection crawled toward her, its face blistering, melting, yet still wearing her smile. "Don't you see? You're not burning the house. You're burning yourself out of it. And when you're gone," it coughed, smoke billowing from its mouth, "I'll be the one who remains." The floor buckled beneath Sarah's feet. She dropped, clutching at the rug only for it to peel away in her hands, threads writhing like worms before disintegrating into soot. Through the widening cracks below, she saw the shadow stirring again, its teeth glistening in the glow, its many mouths gaping like newborns hungry for milk. The house wasn't dying. It was feasting. Sarah scrambled to her feet, horror rising in her throat. Had she only made it stronger? The last match rattled in the box, a final choice sparking between her fingers. Behind her, her reflection laughed, its voice sharp and cruel even as its body sagged into smoke. "Go on. Strike it. Let's see what you really feed." Sarah closed her eyes, tears searing her cheeks, and struck the match. The match flared brighter than the others, a sharp white flame that hissed as if alive. Sarah held it in her bleeding palm, her whole body trembling. The house shuddered. Every wall, every door, every window vibrated in unison, rattling like teeth chattering in a skull. The whisper ceased. For the first time since she had entered this nightmare, there was silence. Her reflection crouched at the far end of the hall, its face half melted, eyes hollow. Smoke dripped from its lips when it spoke. "Now you've done it. Now you'll see what it truly is." The veins in the floor burst open. Light gushed upward, but not fire, something colder, harsher. The glow was blinding, a sterile white that peeled away the wallpaper, the paint, the wood, until the hall was stripped bare. Beneath the house there was no timber, no stone. Only flesh. Endless, glistening flesh, walls that pulsed like lungs, a ceiling that throbbed like a heart. Sarah gagged, pressing her free hand to her mouth. The flame didn't sputter in the damp air. It grew, feeding off the exposed tissue, crawling across it. The house's scream wasn't like before. It wasn't a cry of rage. It was a cry of pain. The reflection shrieked too, clutching its face as it began to dissolve into ribbons of shadow. "You fool! You've torn the skin off it! Do you know what you've freed?" The fissure beneath the hall gaped wider, black smoke pouring out. Within it, Sarah saw the shadow writhing, but no longer bound. Its mouth gnashed, tearing at the walls of flesh like a beast unchained. The match burned closer to her fingers. The fire had no more wood to cling to. It had found the heart of the house instead. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps. "If this kills it, then maybe it kills me too." The reflection reached for her, half liquid now, dripping onto the floor. "Blow it out! End it before it takes us both!" Sarah tightened her grip, holding the flame steady even as it licked her skin, blistering her flesh. "If it takes me," she whispered through clenched teeth, "then it takes you with me." And she drove the match into the glowing vein of the floor. The house convulsed. The light erupted. Everything dissolved. Sarah opened her eyes to darkness. Not the suffocating dark of the house's endless halls, but a softer kind, moonlight bleeding through thin curtains, rain tapping gently against glass. She was back in bed. Her chest heaved as she sat up, the blanket damp with sweat. The lamp glowed warmly on the nightstand. The mirror across the room stood whole, its surface calm. For a fragile moment, Sarah dared to believe it was over. She pressed her hand to her palm, expecting the burn, the cut, the blister. Her skin was smooth, clean. Yet when she lifted her shirt, she gasped. An angry scar ran across her chest, jagged and red, exactly where she had pressed the shard of glass. Her phone buzzed. She flinched. The screen lit up with a single message notification. From her own number. "We're not done!" Sarah hurled the phone against the wall. It shattered, battery hissing, but the message burned in her mind. She staggered to the mirror, clutching its frame. Her reflection blinked back at her, normal, tired, terrified. No grin, no smoke. "Please," she whispered. "Please be gone." The reflection mouthed the same words back. Perfectly. No delay. No trick. Relief threatened to buckle her knees. Then she noticed the rug. Blackened. Charred. The same scorched outline she'd seen before, burned into the floor beneath the bed. She crouched, running her fingers over the mark. The wood pulsed faintly, warm beneath her skin, like a heartbeat. A low groan stirred in the walls. Subtle. Patient. Sarah stumbled back, her pulse hammering. From the hall, a door creaked open. She froze, eyes fixed on the shadowed gap. Nothing moved. No footsteps. No whispers. Just the silence of a house waiting. Sarah pressed her back against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor, hugging her knees to her chest. She forced herself to breathe, to focus on the rhythm of rain. But deep in her bones, she knew. The fire hadn't destroyed the house. It had woken it. And now it was listening. Sarah sat rigid on the floor, her ears straining for the smallest sound. The rain outside was steady, comforting, almost enough to fool her into thinking she was safe. But the house's groans still lingered, low and steady, like something breathing through the walls. She forced herself upright, legs trembling. "You're not real," she whispered, though her voice cracked. "You're just in my head." The floor creaked beneath her words. Her chest tightened. She took a step toward the door, the wood cool under her bare feet. Another groan rippled through the wall beside her, closer this time, the wallpaper bulging faintly, as if something pressed against it from the other side. Sarah backed away. "No. No, you stay there." The bulge receded. Silence again. Her phone, shattered on the floor, crackled once, its dead screen flickering with static. From its broken speaker came a single, warped word. "Listening." Sarah's throat closed. She ran to the kitchen, her bare feet smacking against the warped floorboards. The lights flickered as she yanked open a drawer, pulling out a knife. Her reflection's words from before clawed back into her mind. "You can't hurt what isn't alive." But the blade steadied her hand. She pressed her ear to the wall. At first, nothing, only the hum of electricity, the patter of rain. Then, faint and unmistakable, a heartbeat. Slow. Deep. Echoing inside the frame of the house. The wallpaper beneath her hand pulsed. Once. Twice. Sarah staggered back, knife shaking in her grip. The overhead light flickered violently, plunging the room in and out of shadow. In the brief flashes she saw the kitchen as it had been in the dream, the cupboard sagging, the kettle dripping black fluid, the table crawling with pale hands. And then it was normal again. Her knees buckled. She slammed the knife down on the counter, her voice breaking. "What do you want from me?" The hum of the walls shifted. And the answer came in her own voice, whispered from every corner of the room. "You." The word hung in the air, vibrating through the walls, sinking into Sarah's bones. "You." Her breath came shallow. She gripped the knife tighter, her knuckles white. "No," she whispered. "You can't have me. Not again." The house groaned in reply, a long exhale that rattled the cupboards. Sarah stumbled to the front door, every step an effort. The rug in the living room rippled underfoot, as though something slithered just beneath it. She leapt over it, nearly falling, and seized the knob with shaking hands. It was warm. Too warm. Her heart pounded as she twisted it. To her surprise, the door opened. A gust of cold, rain-soaked wind rushed in, carrying the smell of wet earth and pine. Beyond lay the gravel drive, her car still waiting under the storm. Hope flared. She bolted through the doorway, only to slam into something solid. The air itself. She reeled backward, gasping, pressing her palms against an invisible wall. The storm raged just inches away, but she couldn't reach it. The threshold had become a cage. The knife slipped from her hand, clattering to the floorboards. Behind her, the house sighed. The sound was pleased, almost indulgent. No, she rasped, pounding her fists against the unseen barrier. You can't keep me here. Her reflection's voice answered from behind her, calm and cruel. But it already has. You're inside it now. And it's inside you. Sarah turned slowly. Her reflection stood in the middle of the living room, its body whole again, its smile gentle, almost tender. Stop fighting. It's easier when you don't. The windows rattled. The floor pulsed beneath her bare feet. The heartbeat was louder now, in perfect rhythm with her own. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest, and felt it. The same pulse, not hers, not fully. The house's. It was beating inside her. Sarah's palm pressed harder against her chest, as if she could smother the rhythm inside. But the more she focused, the clearer it became. Her heartbeat wasn't alone. Another pulse throbbed beneath it, slower, heavier, as though two hearts now beat inside the same body. She staggered, bow rising in her throat. No. No, this isn't me. It's not. Her reflection stepped closer, bare feet silent on the floorboards. Its eyes glowed faintly, not with fire but with the same dim light that had once pulsed through the veins of the house's floor. It's always been you, it said softly. That's why the house chose you. You were hollow. Easy to fill. Sarah shook her head violently. I'm not hollow. I fought you. I burned you. The reflection tilted its head, pitying. And in fighting, you opened wider. Do you know what it means to breathe the house, to carry its rhythm? It means you're not leaving. Not ever. The walls exhaled, and Sarah staggered as if the air had been forced from her lungs. She dropped to her knees, clutching the rug, her vision swimming. From the corners of the room, the whispers rose again, not angry this time, not coaxing. Gentle. Intimate. They spoke in her own voice, dozens of versions of it, overlapping. We are you. You are us. Stay. Rest. Be still. Her body sagged under the weight of it. Her eyelids drooped. It felt so easy to sink into that promise, to let the whispers drown her. To give up. But beneath the lullaby of voices, she heard something else. Her brother's laugh. Her father's cough. Her grandmother's hum. They weren't illusions this time. They were memories, stolen from her, played back like toys. Her grief snapped her awake. No, she rasped, forcing herself upright. She staggered toward the knife she dropped, her hand shaking as she snatched it from the floor. The reflection smiled, serene. Go ahead. Cut. You'll only wound yourself. Sarah raised the blade to her chest, pressing the tip against the throb that wasn't hers. Then maybe that's the only way to kill you. The knife's point rested against Sarah's skin, right over the place where her chest pulsed with that alien rhythm. Each throb sent a jolt of nausea through her body, like a second heart trying to wrest control from her own. Her reflection watched with calm delight. Do it. Let's see how much of you is still yours. Sarah's hand shook violently, sweat running down her temple. If I cut this out, maybe I can end it. Maybe I can. The walls groaned, the sound like a warning. The whispers surged, overlapping, pleading in dozens of voices, hers, her family's, strangers. Don't. Don't hurt us. Don't hurt yourself. Stay. Rest. The sound was almost soothing, and for a moment the knife wavered. Her reflection stepped closer, crouching so their faces nearly touched. Its smile widened until the skin cracked at the corners. You're not strong enough. You never were. That's why the house loves you. Rage snapped through Sarah like lightning. She drove the blade inward. Agony seared her chest. She screamed, her knees buckling as blood welled around the knife. But she didn't stop. She pushed deeper, feeling the steel bite something that wasn't flesh, something that resisted like stone. The house shrieked. The walls convulsed, wallpaper ripping, floorboards splitting. Windows shattered outward, rain and wind screaming into the room. The heartbeat stuttered, off rhythm, faltering. Her reflection staggered, its face collapsing into shadow, smoke pouring from its mouth and eyes. No! It howled, its voice layered with hundreds of others. You can't sever what you are! Sarah pulled the knife free, blood spilling down her chest. She gasped, falling to her knees. The second pulse faltered again, weaker now. She pressed a trembling hand over the wound, whispering through clenched teeth, "Then I'll bleed you out of me." The house wailed, boards snapping like bones, the floor shuddering beneath her. Its grin finally gone, the reflection fell to its body unraveling in black smoke. Sarah's grip on the knife tightened. Blood seeped hot through Sarah's fingers, soaking the front of her shirt. Her vision blurred, her breath shallow, but the second pulse inside her chest faltered again. This time it didn't return with full strength. The walls shrieked. The house trembled on its foundation, rattling so violently that plaster rained down from the ceiling. A picture frame fell and shattered, its glass scattering like ice across the floor. Sarah forced herself upright, swaying. I can feel it weakening. Her reflection clutched at its dissolving form, patches of smoke tearing away with each beat of the failing heart. Its eyes burned holes through her. "You don't understand. If it dies, you die with it." "Then so be it," Sarah rasped, her voice ragged. She raised the knife again. The whispers erupted into chaos, no longer pleading, but screaming. Hundreds of voices, her own, her family's, strangers she had never met, all begging at once. "Don't stop, don't kill us." The floorboards split wide. Through the cracks, Sarah saw the raw flesh of the house, pulsing and heaving. Blood, black and steaming, gushed upward, pooling around her feet. She staggered, gagging at the stench, but she pressed the blade harder against her chest. Her reflection dragged itself toward her, its body half gone, fingers trailing smoke. "Listen to them," it shrieked. "They're not illusions. They're pieces of you, of everyone who's lived here. Kill the house, and you erase them all. You erase yourself." Sarah froze. The knife trembled in her hand. Erase myself. For a fleeting second, she imagined it. No loop, no shadow, no hunger. Just nothing. Peace. The thought chilled her deeper than any fear. "No," she whispered. "Not nothing. Not you." With a scream that ripped her throat raw, Sarah plunged the knife deeper into her chest. The house wailed like a dying animal. The floor split wide, walls bowing outward, windows bursting as wind howled through. Her reflection collapsed into ash, its scream cut short. And Sarah fell backward, staring at the ceiling as the second pulse stuttered, staggered, and stopped. Then came silence. Perfect, suffocating silence. The silence was heavy, absolute. Not even the rain tapped the windows anymore. Sarah lay on the floor, chest heaving, blood sticky against her skin. She waited for the second pulse to return, for the house to groan back to life. But there was nothing. For a heartbeat, she dared to believe. She pushed herself onto her elbows. The walls were still. The floor no longer pulsed. The mirror across the room reflected only her, pale, broken, bleeding, but herself. "It's over," she whispered, her voice cracked and raw. The words tasted strange in the silence. She staggered to her feet, swaying, gripping the knife loosely in her blood-slick hand. The house remained quiet, as if holding its breath. She stepped toward the door. Her heart hammered, not with the house's rhythm, but her own. The knob turned easily. The door swung open. Beyond was the storm-soaked night. Her car gleamed wet in the drive. No invisible wall barred her this time. Her knees nearly gave out from relief. She stumbled onto the porch, the rain hitting her face like a baptism. She laughed, shaky, broken, but real. Then she heard it. Not the whispers. Not the dragging steps. A faint sound, like nails tapping on glass. Her head whipped toward the window. Inside the house, the mirror rippled. And her reflection, whole, smiling, untouched, pressed its hands against the glass. Sarah froze, breath caught in her throat. The reflection mouthed two words. "Your turn." The porch shuddered beneath her. The boards pulsed once, faintly. Her scar throbbed. The silence was not silence at all. It was waiting. Rain plastered Sarah's hair to her skull as she staggered down the steps, gravel slipping under her bare feet. Her chest ached with every breath, the wound raw and screaming, but she forced herself forward. Don't look back. Don't look back. The drive stretched longer than it should have, the mailbox swaying in the storm like a sentinel. Her car loomed through the downpour, its windows fogged, its frame beaded with water. Relief surged through her. Escape was still possible. But then came the sound again. Tap. 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 She froze, her blood running cold. It wasn't the mirror this time. The sound came from the car. Slowly, Sarah approached. Her reflection peered at her from the inside of the driver's side window, grinning, tapping its nails against the glass in steady rhythm. Tap. 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 No, Sarah whispered, stumbling back. No, I ended you. I ended you. The reflection's lips moved, silent behind the glass. The house never ends. The car door clicked. It unlocked on its own. The reflection's hand reached for the handle from the inside, pushing it open. Sarah screamed and turned, bolting back toward the road. But the gravel seemed endless, stretching and stretching, the mailbox always just ahead, never behind. Her chest burned. She dropped to her knees, clawing at the dirt, sobbing. The scar over her heart pulsed again, one slow, heavy beat, not hers. The whispers rose in the storm. Not from the house this time. From everywhere. The trees. The wind. The rain. Sarah. 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 She pressed her hands over her ears, rocking, trying to drown them out. But the voice was inside her chest now, vibrating with her heartbeat. When she lifted her head, the house loomed in front of her again. Porch light glowing faintly. Curtains shifting. Waiting. Her reflection stood on the threshold, smiling patiently. You can run, it called through the rain, its voice perfectly hers. But you'll always come back. Sarah's body shook with terror and rage. She staggered to her feet, her voice raw and hoarse. Then I'll tear you down again. I'll burn you 1,000 times if I have to. The house groaned. Not in pain, in amusement. The reflection's grin widened. Then we begin again. And the front door swung open. The doorway yawned wide, its shadows spilling onto the porch like a tide. Rain fell harder, hammering Sarah's shoulders, soaking her to the bone. She should have run. She should have thrown herself into the storm until her legs gave out. But her scar pulsed, and the sound of her name hissed through the wind like a lullaby she couldn't resist. Sarah. Her reflection stood inside, framed by the glow of the hall lamp. Not mocking this time. Patient. Certain. You're already home, it said. Sarah's knife hung limply at her side, blood drying black on its edge. Her arms trembled from exhaustion, her lungs burned with every gasp. She wanted to scream, to curse, to demand freedom. But deep down she knew the truth. The house hadn't trapped her. It had absorbed her. Every fight, every scream, every drop of blood only sank her deeper. The wind behind her howled, pushing at her back. Or maybe it was the house, breathing her forward. One step onto the porch. The boards groaned, and she thought she heard a sigh, contentment, or hunger, she couldn't tell. Another step, her bare feet slick with rain. The door loomed, taller than she remembered, taller than it had any right to be. Her reflection extended a hand, its palm clean and smooth, unmarred by scars or blood. Come, it urged gently. This is the first night. It's always the first night. Sarah's heart hammered. Her scar throbbed in rhythm. Her hand lifted before she could stop it. When her fingers brushed her reflections, the whispers roared to life. The walls shook, the air filled with heat and cold all at once. And Sarah stepped inside. The door slammed shut. Rain battered the windows, muffling the world outside. Inside, the house smiled.